It's amazing how much you see around you in the split second after your brain realises you're about to die. As I flew through the air, I wondered whether I'd make a mess when I hit the ground. My cat, Grimm, was sitting on the steps of the fire escape, a vaguely curious expression on his face. A pair of magpies chattered in surprise from the roof of a nearby building, and a pigeon did an emergency stop in midair, veering away sharply in order to avoid being taken down with me. I noticed that a window on the second floor of my block had a cracked pane. I was just wondering how long it would take for the landlords to get round to fixing it when everything went black. The day had been pleasant, as these things go. The sun was shining and business had been brisk in Flora's, the small backstreet cafe I'd owned and run for the last 2 years. Harrington Street isn't really a through route to anywhere in particular. It sits a block back from the far more popular Matthew Street with its bars and music, and unless you're a local, you'd probably never know Flora's even existed. It had long been popular with students and local shop workers, but by the time I'd gone to look at it with my dad in tow, it had been boarded up for 6 months, and its charm was definitely on the faded side. I'd never run a cafe before I opened Flora's, but I'd been a waitress at a coffee shop in the Blue Coat whilst I was at university. I'd figured it was probably a bit like that, just with more paperwork. And I'd inherited some money from a great aunt I'd never even known. The best kind of inheritance. The sort that arrives out of the blue with no grief-laden weirdness attached to it. So it had seemed fated when a to let sign had appeared on the cafe, especially when I discovered the lease came complete with a flat on the top floor of the building. I'd given notice on my admin job in a small but very boring office, boxed up my meagre belongings from the room in the shared house in Edge Hill that I'd been desperate to get out of for the last 3 years, and didn't look back. These days, Flora's was the kind of cafe that sold proper coffee, alongside pastries from a nearby bakery. The bakery owners gave me a good deal because I'd once briefly dated their daughter, before we jointly decided that having a shared love of 70s music wasn't enough to keep the flame of romance alight. I'd managed a week running the cafe on my own before dragging Izzy, my oldest and most annoying friend, in to help. Izzy had moved up to Liverpool when I was in my second year of uni, declaring that she was bored beyond belief by her job in a clothes shop back in Shropshire. Born to a Japanese mother who'd met her Welsh father whilst he was working in Osaka in the 1980s, Izzy had the vocabulary of a Larry sailor and the personal habits to match. Her sex life was a thing of wonder, peppered with hair-raising tales of ridiculous events and narrow escapes. She made up for it, in her mother's eyes at least, by dressing permanently in delicate flowery dresses and dainty shoes, and looking for all the world as though she'd just stepped out of the 1940s. Her shiny black hair was cut in the sharpest of bobs, and the faint Welsh accent she'd picked up from her father was still audible when she was either drunk or excited.